I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Committee of Adjustment, virtual meeting by electronic participation and in person at the Coastal Community Center for February 14th, 2023. And I'd like to welcome everybody to the in-person virtual meeting. There will be two meetings tonight, one being the Committee of Adjustment, which will start shortly, and the second being an advisory committee. There'll be two minor variances applications for consideration of the committee adjustment. But prior to that, we'll be doing a procedural bylaw review and a review terms of reference for the committee of adjustment for the new members here on the committee. So as part of the advisory committee, there'll be one consent and a zoning bylaw to provide comments on. And I'd like to note that the meeting is audio and video recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to municipality's YouTube page. Registering to participate in the meeting, electronic means are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. So I'd like to do a roll call, and I'll ask the members just to raise their hands. So we'll start on this side. Chris Picard, here. Paul Sedra, and I, John Sapoulos, I'm present as well. In attendance also is our clerk, Courtney White Fox, our secretary treasurer beside me, Lynn Banks, county planning staff, Joanna Schwarzberg on that side, and our deputy clerk, Justine Butterson. Okay, so what we'll do is go into a moment of reflection for a few seconds or so. Okay, so let's start the meeting. So for all the members here, what we're trying to do is mirror the township's council meetings where every item needs a motion and a seconder, and then we vote on it. So we'll start with the first one, the confirmation agenda. May I have a mover and a seconder? You'll move it. I'll second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. So let's go to the approval of minutes of January 10th, 2023. May I have a mover and a seconder? Move it. All. I'll second. Okay. Cute. Confirmation agenda, exposure of junior interest. We can do that. Okay. Do we have any disclosure of junior interest? No,
Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, does Paul or Chris have a disclosure of your interest? No. No, but thank you. All right, so we're going to move into the township procedure bylaw, which is under new business. It's slated to start at 7:05. So Courtney, would you please take us through that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm cognizant of everybody's time here tonight, so this should only take about 10-15 minutes to go through both our procedure bylaw and our terms of reference for the Committee of Adjustment. So Justine's going to put the presentation up on the screen for us. I'm going to flip through the slides, and please stop me if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll just continue through to the end if that's all right with you, Mr. Chair.
So it is.
Just bear with us. We just are trying to work with the tech and get it up on the screen here. Okay, great. So the township's procedural bylaw is a piece of policy that regulates how council and committee conduct their meetings and their business. So we're going to go through just briefly, the actual bylaw has also been provided to the committee in your agenda package, so you can review it in detail. It's also available on the township's website in case you need to reference it. And then likewise, staff are always available at the meetings or offline if you have any procedural questions that you need clarification on. So today we're just going to look at the procedural bylaw, advisory committee, and quasi judicial committee overview, and roles and responsibilities. So to start, we have our meeting procedure. So we have meetings that are scheduled for C of A and PDAC on a monthly basis. You'll be provided with an agenda, your agenda materials. So these could include delegations, presentations, reports. As part of the agenda matters, you're going to debate and discuss and ultimately vote on items. And then our secretary of our committee maintains the record keeping, which are minutes. Those can be also accessed on our township website and are available to the public. So the procedural bylaw establishes the procedure for meetings of council and committee. It ensures that the meetings are held in an open and accessible manner. So what we have gone to recently is conducting meetings through a hybrid model. So just making that more accessible through different platforms for the public. So we have folks that are attending in person as well as online through Zoom. And it provides the opportunity for the public to participate through delegations at PDAC or through making representations at our hearing committee of. So advisory committee and quasi judicial committee overview. So again, just recognizing that we have distinct committees, some that are advisory to council, and they may or may not be statutory, and others that are quasi judicial in nature, meaning they have ability to make decisions on behalf of the corporation. So our reporting structure, so we see that we have council, we have our committee of adjustment, which is one of our quasi judicial committees here within the township. So again, they're going to be making decisions on minor variance applications, which is relief from our zoning bylaw. And then we have our advisory committees. We do have one to add, actually, wasn't approved, I believe, at the time we made the this presentation, but it's actually our youth advisory committee. So we have Heritage, which is statutory, REC, and Planning and Development Advisory Committee, which are advisory in nature. So the committee role, so you're providing advice and communications to council and staff. And then for quasi judicial, you're actually having that decision-making ability. You're developing and implementing goals and objectives, and you're governed by your term of reference. So duties and conduct. So there's actually a number of things that help citizen appointees as well as elected officials and staff conduct themselves. So the township has a code of conduct for staff, a code of conduct for council and committee members, and there's also the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. All of these things together work to guide elected officials, staff, and citizen appointees in how they make their decisions and on behalf of the township. So a citizen appointee, we have volunteers. They're appointed based on their subject matter and their expertise based on the advisory or quasi judicial committee. They are voting members. All citizen members have voting rights as well as our members of council that sit on our committees. The expectation is to participate fully in debate and discussion unless you've declared a conflict. Disclose those conflicts openly. They are posted on our website to make sure the public has access to those. And we do have some guidelines around when and how you speak to the media and who are those folks that can speak to the media on behalf of the corporation. So the chair is our council representative. That's across the board in the terms of reference. So whether it's Heritage, REC, Youth, PDAC, or C of A, the chair is always going to be our elected official. A couple reasons for that. One is a procedural awareness. The other is the chair actually does not have the ability to move any motions unless they relinquish their chair to another member. So it's appropriate for citizen members on these advisory committees to all have that ability to move motions. So the chair is responsible to facilitate the meeting procedure. They are also the committee liaison with township staff. That doesn't include other members from contacting township staff. They are to read out any disclosures of pecuniary interest. And we do still have some restrictions in our communications policy about who can speak to the media on behalf of that committee. So council representatives, so we do have our elected member of council. They're appointed by council, they're a voting member, and likewise they need to disclose conflicts, and they are the link between the committee and council. So we do have a section at our council meetings where council members can report on any of the advisory committees. So our committee secretary, so for C of A and PDAC, it's Ms. Lynn Banks. She takes on that role. So she's a non-voting participant. She's responsible for preparing agendas and minutes, providing any procedural advice, present staff reports and recommendations, and just a general resource to the committee. So our meeting procedure. Meetings are open to the public. So we don't go into in-camera sessions typically in our committees. Subcommittees, if they are created, cannot exceed quorum, so that's and this committee forum would be 3. So if we were ever to make a subcommittee for an objective, we would have committees of 2 or less. And right now we're conducting business at the Village Community Center and so our agenda, it's a legislative requirement that we publish it to make it available to the public. We do this 1 week before the meeting. It's available for review so that the public and committee members are prepared. It's circulated electronically and it includes a list of items under consideration. So just some agenda items there that you may see. So we're looking at the presentations. Questions may follow a recommendation. There may be a debate or discussion and voting. And this could occur on any item that you see on the agenda. Or it may not include all of those. It just depends on the discussion of the committee. So delegations and presentations. C of A is a quasi-judicial committee, so they don't require delegations in advance of the hearing. So members of the public are able to come up and make representations without registering in advance. Subject to the chair and committee's decision, typically it's 10 minutes that they have to speak. You need to introduce yourself, state typically your name and address. The committee may ask clarification questions, but again, when you have a delegation that's presenting, it's not the opportunity for the committee to go back and forth and have a discussion with that person. That discussion should happen later on, and the delegate typically is not part of those discussions in the committee unless, again, there's some clarification questions. So again, just following the delegation, the chair is going to facilitate this. We stay relevant to the topic at hand. Again, asking those clarification questions, but trying to refrain from entering into debate with the delegate. So recommendations. So these are motions that are put on the table. They must be moved and seconded. They must be related to the subject matter at hand. If it isn't, we're looking at a notice of motion or something separate to the main motion that's on the table. The committee coordinator can assist with drafting these recommendations if you need help, if the committee requires assistance with that, and the chair doesn't move or second motion. So debate and discussion, again, the chair's role is to facilitate this. Everyone has an equal opportunity to speak and entitled to take part, again, unless you've declared a conflict. It needs to be related to the item under consideration on the floor. So just keeping that in mind what you're speaking about, and just always treat each other in a respectful manner. Voting. So again, every member has 1 vote. Votes are equal, depending on the chair's preference. Now that we're in person, it very much could be show of hands. If it's a tie, then the motion fails. And the chair and all members have the right to vote. Or refusal to vote is seen as a negative vote on the matter. And then the chair announces whether it's carried or not. So minutes, parliamentary style. So the way that we conduct minutes and decisions is that in accordance with the Municipal Act, minutes capture direction of the committee. So with the exception of our quasi-judicial committee, where we do capture a little bit more information, the minutes aren't necessarily going to reflect the full discussion that the committee has. They're going to be electronically distributed to the members following the meeting and available on the Council's website. Conflict of interest, so this is an individually legislated responsibility, and what that means is staff are not the integrity commissioner. So we're not able to provide you advice on whether or not you should be declaring a conflict. Again, our conflict of interest includes anything that would pose a conflict under our code of conflict, or the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, which deals with pecuniary conflict, so financial gain or loss. So the integrity commissioner is available to speak with, should you need some advice on the matter. You can file them written with me. We can put you in touch with the integrity commissioner. Again, if you have a conflict, we can provide you with the resources, including the act, so you can read that through. And again, it needs to be disclosed either at the beginning of the meeting or when you become available, when it becomes known to you. So you could go down the road of a discussion on a matter. You could realize maybe this is a conflict to you and you'd like to disclose. So you make that known to the chair. And we will be receiving more in-depth training on this. It's a complicated matter. So we will have formal training by our integrity commissioner, in which all committee members will be invited to attend. And that is likely coming up the end of March, beginning of April. So just pay attention for that. That's the end of our procedural bylaw training. If there's any questions. So, Mr. Chair, there's just one more thing for this committee. It's just a very brief review of our terms of reference. So every committee has a terms of reference, or TOR, as it might be referred to. So this first review is for the Committee of Adjustment. So the terms of reference includes enabling legislation, your role and mandate, and your purpose for meeting here as a committee. So the enabling legislation is referred back to section 44(1) of the Planning Act, which states the municipality passes a bylaw under section 34. Or a predecessor of such section, the council of the municipality may have a bylaw constitute and appoint a committee of adjustment for the municipality composed of such members not fewer than 3 as council considers advisable. So again, the secretary often reads out a reference to the Planning Act when she makes statements, and so this is where we get our authority to actually make these decisions. So the role and mandate, so you're considering applications for minor variance from the township's zoning bylaw. For the committee to approve this type of application under section 45(1) of the Planning Act, the 4 criteria have to be met. So again, this is something that is referred to in every planning report that we receive from the county, just discussing and considering whether it meets the 4 tests. So it needs to be considered minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development or land use, building or structure, maintains the general intent of the official plan, and maintains the general intent of the zoning bylaw. So further to making decisions on minor variance applications, the committee's mandated to provide a forum for the exchange of information and engagement with the community. So again, it's a hearing, doesn't necessarily require people to register in advance. It's an opportunity for the community to come and speak with you. So again, the purpose, so reviewing the merits of a minor variance application, the documentation and evidence put forward, and rendering a decision. If there's any questions on the TOR. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for your indulgence. We'll move into item 7, application for minor variance and permission. So the purpose of a hearing with respect to a minor variance today is to inform and provide the public the opportunity to ask questions or to express views with respect to the minor variance before us today. The township requests that you please notify the secretary of the committee by email at lynbanks@coastlands.ca. We wish to be on record and would like to be notified of future hearings and decisions regarding the application. We also have two signing sheets on the podium, so if you want to stay abreast as well, you can sign the appropriate signing sheet. So the format of the hearing on any particular variance will be, staff will present the information, report specifically, outline the purpose of the application, summarizing compliance with the township notification and submission requirements, and outlining staff comments. The applicant then will be asked to present the purpose and details of the application and any further relevant information. Following this, the public can obtain clarification, ask questions, and express their views on the proposal. You will have a maximum of 10 minutes each to speak. Following this, the members of the committee can likewise ask questions and obtain clarification from the presenter. Then the matter will be put forward to the committee for discussion and rendering this decision, and the decision will be subject to the 20-day appeal period. So we'll move into the first minor variance application 7.1, minor variance application D13-DEO, relevant to MDPO 6867 Bellington Road, 34, concession 2, Park Lot 15, Township of Post Lynch, requesting relief of New Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 23-2018 as amended from section 4.10A, height restrictions. The purpose and effect is to provide relief from section 4.10A to permit a single family dwelling in the agricultural zone to have a height of 11.3 meters to the midpoint of the roof. So, would you please put the drawing on the board? Okay, Lynn, would you please summarize the application, notification, and submission requirements, outlining staff, agency, and public comments and recommendations?
Notification was provided to the public in accordance with the Planning Act. The following comments were received from consultants and agencies. GRCA said that the proposed dwelling is located outside of the GRCA regulation limit, and they have no objection to a requested variance. Additionally, the proposed dwelling, septic system, and grading will not require a GRCA permit under Ontario Regulation 150/06. Proposed dwelling is located outside of the GRCA regulation limit, and they have no objection. SourceWater said the property is located in a vulnerable area, but the activities as indicated will not create a significant drinking water threat, and the application can be screened out. It does not require a section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act. The township's building department stated that from a building code perspective, they have no concerns with the proposed variance to increase the maximum height. Full review of the technical building code requirements will be made during the building permit application process. And Public Works stated they have no concerns, as this is a county road, and the township's fire departments also stated that they have no concerns with the application. Now, I did receive one from comment from a resident, if you'd like me to read that.
Yes, please.
So the comment is from Gabriela Tavares, address is 6864 Wellington Road 34. And her comment states that I hereby submitting my concerns in opposition of this application. The height of the house is extremely high. It's too high, having a frontage with the appearance of commercial/institution building. There are 3 front entrances, which one could assume it to be a triplex building in the future.
Thank you. So, Courtney, would you please have the owner applicant join a panelist and present your application?
So Mr. Deal or Mr. Benson? Mr. Deal or Mr. Deal?
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
And present your application.
Hi, good evening, committee members. Our application is for a minor variance for a building height increase. I
Please
believe.
state your name and address, please, before you start, for the record.
Yep, my name is Emmer Paul Bansel. I'm at 106 Fruitvale Circle, Brampton, Ontario. I am the agent for the application.
Great,
And
thank you. Go ahead.
we're requesting a minor variance for a building height increase from the allowable 10 meters to 11.3 meters. The owner wishes to have a slightly taller roof to complement the luxury home that he's having his family live in. I believe the difference is about 4 feet from the front of the property. We hope that the committee sees the application in minor nature, and if there's any questions that you guys have, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to the public. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, did not receive any.
Okay. Courtney, are there anybody in the audience who requested to speak?
Mr. Chair, it looks like we have one resident that's joining us remotely, Mr. Sean Marsh.
Hello, Sean, would you please state your name and address and ask your questions? Provide comments. Sean, you're muted. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself, Sean.
Hello,
Hello, Sean. You're finally connected. So you please state your name and address for the record and make your comments or ask your questions.
it's Sean Marsh, 149 Heritage Lake Drive in Pliswich. I just on an observer tonight. I'm not sure what happened. I'm just watching. I just like watching the meeting. Sorry for the confusion. I had no comments. Beautiful house.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any members in the audience who'd like to ask questions or make comments? Yes? Come on up. Have a seat. Yes, have a seat. State your name, address, and ask questions or provide comments or vote.
My name is Terry Grantbridge. I live at 6865 Wellington Road 34. Right next to this property. I'm opposed to the variance for the reason that with the height of this building, it could restrict my ability to have a clear sight for internet, TV, cell phone, wherever a tower may be. I think I should be entitled to have a clear sight around my house in order to receive these signals. So I'm opposed to the height of this building.
Okay.
Secondly, I'm opposed to the design of this building because it looks like an institution. I'm afraid it's going to degrade the value of properties around the surrounding properties.
Okay.
I think that's it.
All right. Do any members have questions of the presenter?
No, we don't.
No. Okay, thank you very much. Have a seat. Were there any other members in the audience or online? No? Okay, so let's turn it over to the committee members. Do any committee members have any questions of the applicant? Nothing for me, thank you. Okay. Then we'll move straight into the motion to either approve, oppose, or defer. So I'll read out the reading and we'll ask for a vote for approve, oppose, or defer. So in the matter of section 45 of the Planning Act as amended and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, an application for minor variance requesting one, provide a single family dwelling in the agricultural zone to have 11.3 meters to the midpoint of the roof instead of 10 as required. So the application is either approved, opposed, or deferred. And let's go around the table. We'll start with you, Chris.
I agree that it's a minor variance and we have no objection to approving it.
Okay. Thank you. Paul?
It's approved.
Okay, and I, John, approve as well. And so may I have a mover and a seconder for the decisions? Moved by Paul, seconded by Chris. Thank you. So the application is approved and it's subject to a 20-day appeal period. Okay, let's move on to next item on the agenda, which is another minor variance application. It's D13 GIB David Gibson 4565 Watson Road South in Section 10, Part 17, Township Wilson, requesting relief of new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended from Section 4.2C3 additional residential units. The purpose and effect is to provide relief from Section 4.2C3 to permit additional residential unit to be 90 meters from the principal dwelling unit rather than 40 meters as required. So, Ben, would you please summarize the well, I'll ask Courtney, would you please put the drawing on the board? Good. Len, would you please summarize the application, notification, submission requirements, outlining staff, agency, public comments, and recommendations?
Notice of the application was given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. Notice requirements for the application have been met and the following comments were received. The GRCA stated that information currently available at this office indicates that the subject property contains a water course, floodplain, valley slopes, wetlands, and the regulated allowance adjacent to these features. Due to the presence of these features noted above, portions of the property are regulated by the GRCA. Any future development or other alteration within the regulated area will require prior written approval from the GRCA in the form of a permit pursuant to Ontario Regulation 150/06. And the GRCA does not object to the requested variance, but note that additional information will be required as part of the GRCA permit application for the ARU. Sourcewater stated that the property is located in a vulnerable area. However, as indicated, but the activities as indicated would not create a significant drinking water threat, and the application being screened out and does not require Section 59 notice under the Clean Water Act. The Township Building Department said, from a building code perspective, they have no concerns with the proposed variance, and that a full review of technical building code requirements will be made during the building permit application process. Public Works had no comments. And the Township's Fire Department stated that please ensure that the driveway to the residential units will have quick access for emergency vehicles. And noted that they will need 5 meters of clear height from any overhanging tree branches, etc. And 12 feet of clear width and a driveway base that can support the imposed limit of their fire trucks. And that's the comments.
Great, thank you. I'll ask the applicant or agent to come forward. Have a seat. Please state your name and address and present your application.
I'm Dave Gibson. I live at 4565 Watson Road South in Bushland. And I submitted the application for a minor variance to build an ARU on the property. The reason I'm asking for the 90 meters is because if you look on the drawing there, the only adequate spot that we can really place it where it's not going to be blocking an entrance to the field or over top of water lines going to the barn. Would still be just on the edge of the barn, but it's still staying within the cluster. And where we placed it, we could never sever that in the future, and it's not visible from the roadway whatsoever.
Great. Thank you very much. So let's turn it over to the public. Lynn, are there any registrants who requested to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, I have not received any.
Okay, and Courtney, are there anybody available in the audience who'd like to speak to us?
If anyone in the audience wishes to make representation, if you could just use the raise your hand feature. There's no hands being raised. Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to make a comment or ask questions with respect to this matter of this application? None? Okay, thank you. So let's turn it over to the members. Okay, we'll start with you, Chris. Any questions or comments?
The 90 meters is a significant change. There's really nowhere else on the property, such as between the barn and the current house. I know there are trees there,
But
but
that's where we couldn't, yeah, we have water lines that run there. I have two separate field entrances that go between the barn and the house. My barn as it stands is 60 meters away from the house. So the only area that we can really put it is up beside the barn, because we can't really produce anything in that field or farm that field whatsoever either, so.
Well,
Yeah, I was curious of the purpose of the building.
For my son,
So is it going to be occupied as a residence?
yes.
Thank you.
okay. I don't have any questions, so let's turn it over. Let's read the actual notice of decision, and we'll go through the process of approval, proposal deferred. So in the matter of section 45 of the Planning Act as amended, and new comprehensive zoning bylaw 23-2018 as amended, an application for minor variance requesting to permit additional residential unit to be 90 meters from the principal dwelling unit rather than 40 meters as required. So the request is either approved, opposed, or deferred. So we'll start with you, Chris.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the GRC has requested that a condition,
Oh, so wait, so please read the conditions.
certainly. The GRCA has imposed a condition that the owner submit a pre-consultation request to the Grand River Conservation Authority to address any concerns that the GRCA might have.
Okay, so that condition is attached to what I just read. This approve with the condition or opposed or deferred.
I struggle with whether or not it's actually a minor variance with definitions. So I think I'm saying that I would be leaning towards opposed. Is it a minor variance may just not be the appropriate mechanism to achieve what she gets trying to achieve?
Well,
Approved.
and I approve as well. And it'll be subject to a 20-day appeal period. And may I have a mover and a seconder for the decisions made?
That puts me in an awkward spot.
Well, you can move and second items.
Sure, I will second it. You satisfied procedures? Yes.
All in favor? Of the
Yes.
All right, fair enough. 20-day appeal period. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Move on to the next item. New business. We do not have any new business. We dealt with that already. And may I have a mover and a seconder to adjourn the committee of adjustment at 7:49. Move. All second. Chris, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, so let's, go into the, planning and advisory committee meeting. So Courtney, I have to tell you to re-roll the cameras, or are we still the same? Do I have to tell you to restart the camera?
You're still.
Still on camera? Okay, fair enough. Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Planning and Development Committee meeting for February the 14th. It's a virtual meeting, a virtual meeting and in-person meeting at the Puslinch Community Center. This evening, we'll have one consent and proposed zoning bylaw amendments for the us to provide comments on. The consent will be comments from regarding the consent we passed on to the county land division committee, and the comments with respect to the advisory committee with respect to the rezoning application be passed on to council when this matter is deliberated to council. So we'll start with the roll call. Chris Picard here, Paul Sedra. And I, Councilor Johnson, Coulson, present as well. We'll go for a few moments of reflection. Thank you. So let's get our next item. It's a confirmation agenda. May I have a mover and a seconder to confirm the agenda? Okay, moved by Paul, seconded by Chris, all in favor? Great, thank you. Disclosure of conflict of interest, Lynn, do we have any?
No, Mr. Chair, I did not receive any.
Chris or Paul, anything?
None.
Great, thank you. Delegations, do we have any delegations of a specific interest of item listed on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, I do not.
Okay. And next one, do we have any delegations of general interest of item found listed on the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, we do not.
Okay, fair enough. So let's move into the consent agenda. The first item is approval of minutes 7.1.1 of January 10th, 2023. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Paul, second by Chris. All in favor? Yep, thank you. Other consent items, we have correspondence 7.2.1. Correspondence summarizing Bill 23 and Bill 109 changes. Is there any comments or discussion we want to have with respect to this item?
The only comment I guess, provide is that there is a housing affordability issue right now in our province, so I think it's important for us to understand and work with the province. So that's the only comment I have. That's
Nothing for me, thank you.
Good, thank you. So I have mover and a seconder to receive the correspondence summaries in Bill 23 and Bill 109 changes. Moved by Paul, second by Chris, all in favor? Thank you. Let's move now into the reports. Land division. Sure, you can speak to that, yeah. That's, we can do that, when we present the respect to zoning.
Yes.
Okay, so, okay, so we'll do the notice of public meeting before stuff reports. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so item number 8, notice of public meeting / hearings. So last week at the council meeting, we can receive direction from council that a public meeting is to be held for the zoning amendment application for 128 Brock Road South on March 22nd, 2023 at 7 p.m. And that will be virtual and in person here at the Puslinch Community Center.
Good, thank you. Okay, land division committee. So I'll read the consent that's on here, and Courtney, if you can put it on the screen, we appreciate it as well. So it's 9.1.17 application B13-23 D10-TON. Louise Cronin, care of P. Willis and then Romo. Part lots 8 and 9, concession 10, municipally known as 900 Watson Road South, Township Puslinch, proposed surface is 1.54 hectares with 80-meter frontage. Existing agricultural use for proposed rural residential use. Retained parcel is 1.37 hectares with 173-meter frontage. Existing proposed rural residential use with existing house and 2 sheds. So I'd like everybody to note that reiterate that the committee's mandate is strictly to provide comments to the county's land division committee when it considers this matter for approval. Courtney, would you please have the agent or applicant join the panels to present your application?
So, Mr. Raxel.
Okay, come on over, Mr. Rob Stoll. For the record, please state your name and address.
Yes, good evening, Rob Stovall, Stovel. And my address is 651 Burnsville Road in Fergus.
Great, thank you. So please present your application.
Yes, it's a proposal for a rural residential consent in the secondary agricultural area. It's for the Tonans, who are longtime residents of the township. And the proposal is relatively straightforward. I mean, there's the provision within the county official plan that allows for consents to be considered in the secondary agricultural designation. The delineation of the designation cuts through on a kind of on a triangular swath through the proposed lands to be severed. That delineation is general in nature, and when we check in our reporting sets it out, the background mapping illustrates the entire area to be comprised of class 3 and class 5 soils. So we generally feel that from the southerly boundary of the proposed lands to be severed up past the railroad line and into Arkell, that would be all secondary agriculture because it relates to the low capability of farmland. The matters that we dealt with when we set out the limits of the proposed lot are we wanted to have a frontage in the order of 60 to 65 meters. We used 80, knowing that if we needed to, we could reduce it in size. But the 80 is reflective of what many of the other properties in the local area are. And the other hiccup that we ran into, not really a hiccup, but the other consideration that we had was that how deep to make the lot. So the railroad, the Guelph Junction Railway is the rear lot line for the subject lands. And we just felt that it would be odd to have kind of a flag-shaped lot with a portion of the retained lands to come behind the proposed severed lands. So those are the reasons why we set up the delineation. So 80 meters, not range wide, and then to go to the extent of the property going back to the Guelph Junction Railroad, because it's on an angle that makes the property a larger. So we set it out that way. If the committee or the land division committee felt that it needed to be smaller, we could certainly make it smaller, but we knew that we probably wouldn't be able to make it larger. So that's the reason why we set it that way. The other considerations that we have in there are some sheds, and there's an old bank barn in the area to the west of Watson Road, and the farm data sheets that we received, the one indicated that it's not an active livestock farm. And the other one, we didn't receive the farm data sheet. There's been 2 requests for it. We never received this. We just moved on to the best information we had at the time. So we feel the application is appropriate. It's well set back from the Guelph Junction Railroad, gives good sight lines on that road. And it's similar in size to what the other properties are in that local area. We're of the view that we don't have any MDS issues, and certainly if there is an MDS concern, that the county planning office has identified that could be dealt with at a later stage through a minor change, if that's a minor variance, if that's required. And then the final matter is that there's an on-site shed that we call it, that we like to maintain the shed for storage purposes, but it doesn't, it's not for livestock purposes. So I think those are the matters in front. Oh, I guess the other finding here is that there's no Greenland or Port Greenland features on the site, so there would be no concerns from the GRCA, at least that's what we're expecting. So that's the summary of the proposal. I think that we're scheduled for a land division committee in March, visit. So we're hopeful that the committee would be supportive of the proposal, and I'm here to answer any questions that I'm able to. If I'm not able to answer it, I will get back to the committee.
Good, thank you. All right, Chris, questions of the applicant?
No, nothing for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, okay, I just have a question of the county planning staff. In the documentation submitted by the proponent, he indicates that the type B land use was not deemed appropriate. Does county support that?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the planner on this file will be reviewing the MDS setbacks and determining them and flagging if there is a concern from an MDS perspective. Whenever there is an MDS perspective, we propose a condition to make sure that that is something that's addressed as a result of the application. So they would be reviewing this particular application to see if it is a type A or type B land use.
Thank you. Okay, so Chris and Paul, we have some comments to provide to the land division committee, and after we've done it's things like we support the application, any other technical comments. Are we mover or seconder?
I'll move it us.
Yeah, no, sir.
Okay, so all in favor of that comment?
Yes.
Thank you. So then, we need to understand the rest of the particular comments that the township has put on. So if one of you can read them and just, we can vote on all the comments of the package to be sent out to the county.
So, Mr. Chair, so the first condition will be that the owner satisfy all the requirements of the township of Portsmouth, financial and otherwise, including taxes paid in full, and the consent review and condition clearance fee, which the township may deem to be necessary at the time of issuance of a certificate of consent for the property, and will be responsible for any fees incurred by the township for review of the application. Second condition will be safe access to the proposed severed lands can be accommodated to the satisfaction of the township. And the third condition is at the request of the township's building department, that the owner should be required to obtain a change of use permit for the on-site storage building, or in the alternative, the demolition permit to demolish the on-site storage facility, which to my understanding was the barn that has the stalls have been removed, right? So it's simply to the satisfaction of the township. And that's our three conditions.
Okay, and just read our petition. Want to take members before
I'm sorry.
stuff that we supported to use.
Oh, certainly. So the resolution is that the committee supports the severance application B1-23, subject to the following conditions, and those are the three conditions that I just read.
What's the one that the committee members supported the application?
Certainly. So the committee supports the application subject to the conditions, and those are the three conditions that I mentioned.
So I'll move and second. Paul, seconded by Chris, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff.
Next item is the zoning bylaw application. So I'll read it and Courtney, if you can display it on the screen, we'd appreciate it. So zoning bylaw application 9.2.1 zoning bylaw amendment application B14 WEL Wellington Motor Freight, part law 24, concession 7, part law 24, concession 8, part road allowance between concession 7 and 8, as in RO 677671 and RO 06777672, save and accept part 161 R-21577, Township of Puslinch. The purpose and effect of this application is to amend the Township of Puslinch comprehensive zoning bylaw to rezone the lands from highway commercial specific provision 89 AC 89 to one site specific industrial to permit a warehouse and transportation. Thank you. So we'll move into applicants. Who will take the application? Okay, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Pierre Chauvin. I'm a partner with MHBC Planning. We're a planning consulting firm out of Kitchener. Address at our office, 540 Bingman Center Drive, Kitchener. With me is Mark. Mark, you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Mark Lunsoff. I'm, you want my address for the businesses or my personal address?
Businesses.
7419 McLean Road. I'm an owner overall of Wellington Group of Companies, one of the partners, and I'm president of Wellington Supply Chain, which is one of the divisions of Wellington Group of Companies.
Good, thank you. So please present your presentation.
Thank you again, and welcome to those who may be watching. Again, my name is Pierre Chauvin. I've got a few slides here. I'll just walk through and then hopefully I can answer any questions at the end of the presentation. And we hope that we can get your support with respect to the application, which I understand is going to the public meeting in late March. So the property in question is 128 Rock Road South, just immediately south of the Selman area of Aberfoyle. You'll see on the air photo we've identified Aberfoyle in yellow. That's also the road, the defining road or property boundary on Gilmore Road. So the property has frontage on both Gilmore and Brock Road. There's a small amount of frontage along Gilmore and almost 400 meters of frontage along Brock Road. Lands are currently vacant. There's a couple of structures that will be demolished, but it's the subject of a few past fill operation that has occurred on the property and has remained vacant for a number of years until Wellington Group of Companies have recently purchased it with the intention of moving and centralizing all of their warehouse facilities on this particular location. They chose this location for obvious reasons. So location. Immediate access to 401, great access on Brock Road, and essential to really all their customers and deliveries that they're going to. So that's a nutshell in terms of where we are. As you can see also in the photo, we're immediately abutting the Maple Leaf Food operation, opposite an aggregate operation. So within an area that is industrialized and these lands have been designated in the county official plan for that type of use. In terms of the proposed development, what Wellington Group of Companies is proposing is to develop a large warehouse of almost 200 square feet of warehouse space, as well as a 3-story office in the area. And which will house all their staff. And that office, and I've got some illustrations of the site plan and the elevations. The office will be separated from the warehouse component, attached by sort of a catwalk, an overhead walkway, just to let in with the truck movements underneath the walkway. The intention is to provide for over almost 200 employees on this property. With parking enough for 123 tractors as well as enough employee parking. Sorry, I meant to say 150 employees, but with 170 employee parking. The most of the operation operates in one shift. There's no nighttime shifts typically. If there are, it's a one-off type of thing where trucks may be coming off hours. But generally, they operate from 7 to 5 o'clock. And with the office hours going from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. There may be, like I said, the one operating shift outside of those hours. This is the site plan that has been developed to date. You'll see the large building in the middle of the property, which is the warehouse. There's a separate building, Brock Road is at the top of the image with the truck access. Just, we'll call it to the left of the large warehouse building, and to the left of that entrance is the office space, and we'll see the next image is a walkway connecting those two buildings. So all truck access will be off of Brock Road. The access, there is a second access on Gilmore, which will function as the staff access and access to the parking, which is located just behind the office space. It's a little difficult to see with this site plan, but there is a septic bed along the frontage of Brock Road. It's not the greatest location, but it's really was dictated by the type of soil and material that we have in situ on site. And that is in fact the best location to allow for the septic bed to be. And so that will also function as sort of a landscape element along Brock Road to help screen the parking along Brock Road. The entrance will be gated and operated. There will be off of Brock Road, so people trucks have to come through and get approval to enter the site. It will be secured and whatnot. Most of the truck parking and trailer parking is along the back of the building and along the side on the left-hand side of the building. You'll note at the very top end, corner of the property, there is a circular shape that is in fact a wetland that will be we have protected. We completed an environmental impact statement, and which is being reviewed by the review agency. The intention is to keep it with the buffers, and the GRCA in fact wanted us to zone it. So we have made an amendment to our application to also zone it the natural heritage zone as well. So that's essentially the site plan in a nutshell. This is again, the colors aren't coming out great, but you can see the top image is the entire frontage along. This is what we're looking at, Brock Road, and the bottom image is just more of a cutout or a zoom in of the office, which is the very left hand portion of the top image. Where you can see the opening and the walkway between the office, the 3-story office, and the warehouse building. So that's effectively what we'll see. And there's a lot of glazing, a lot of sort of panels, materiality, and again, this is all subject to site plan control that will have to go through after the zone change, where materials and colors and those types of things with respect to the design of building will be vetted through staff at that time. So in terms of the actual application that's before you, as I mentioned, this area is part of a special policy area within the county official plan. It's actually been known as the Puslinch Economic Development area, which permits these types of uses. And the lands are currently zoned highway commercial with a special policy at 89. And that particular zone currently doesn't permit warehouses or these types of uses. So that's why we need a zone change. We're proposing to rezone it to industrial to permit that warehouse use. As I mentioned earlier, the wetland that's on the property in the top corner we are protecting it along with the 15-meter buffers and will be zoned appropriately as natural farm. So again, you've seen in your package our planning report that we submitted with our application. And we believe this is totally consistent with provincial policy, with the forms of the growth plan and county official plan. We ask for your support. We certainly see this as a great opportunity to see an underutilized parcel of land in the township being utilized for employment purposes and bringing employment to your community. So, and we certainly look forward to working with the township staff as we work through the subsequent site plan approval process, which is sort of the next stage in this process after we get our zoning approval. So those are my comments, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Just a couple. What will the warehouse store in general? And really my question is around the risk, the hazards of the stored items.
So just to give you just a couple of things that help out. Right now, we have a warehouse in Cambridge, Ontario. We have 145,000 square feet there. We have 50,000 square feet in Brantford. Our intention is to bring that product, once this warehouse is built, to bring it here. So currently, we have no hazardous goods that we store. We don't plan to, but we have one of our customers is Mill Street Breweries, so we have a lot of, you came to our warehouse, if you like beer, it'd be very exciting to look at, but they're all empty, unfortunately. So empty cans, anything they need to produce. We have PH Milling, which is one of the biggest flour companies in Canada. They we're their overflow, so we have 50,000 square feet of warehouse for them, so it's just flour, baking flour. We have OI, which is one of the largest manufacturers of bottles. They also alcohol related. They make vodka bottles, vinegar bottles, but they make empty bottles that eventually get filled Crown Royal bottles. So we have paper products that we store in our warehouse. That's down in Brantford. We have lawnmowers, which don't have oil in them until they get purchased. And we have fridges. We have fridges that you see in grocery stores that you buy that store pizzas in and whatnot. So a lot of different products, and what we're trying to do, we're big into culture, and we have a place in McLean Road. We've outgrown it. We purchased that about 3 years ago. We put $100,000 renovation into it to make it a beautiful place for people to come to work. And then unfortunately, due to growth, my division is now in Cambridge because we didn't have any room here. Our warehouse is there, but we could keep all the members of my staff in Puslinch if we could. And then we've had to now get more warehouse space down in Brantford. But the facility we're building is going to have a gym in it. When we talk about culture, we plan to have this place. Most of our people live in this area. All ownership lives within 5 to 15 minutes of the place. So we're trying to build something that will be, you guys will be proud to have to drive by every day, and something that's going to attract some of the best people in the industry. I heard one comment already, just some people were concerned. It came on, sorry, people were flying around that. How can we have so many employees and not that many trucks coming in? A lot of what we do is called brokerage. We have large customers and they ask us to get their stuff delivered. But we hire other trucking companies. Those trucks will never come to our place. They might go to Craft down in Saskatchewan and then deliver it to the US. But so we have a whole team of people that there's probably 40 people. That's what they do. They facilitate that. So it's not, the trucks won't come in and out of our warehouse. And that's probably more than you asked for, but I'm pretty passionate about what I do.
Just a couple of other questions. Fueling operations,
They will be done on site.
truck wash.
No plans, no 100%.
That's it for me then. Thank you. Well,
Sure. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for the presentation, and I think, just personally, I think we should be engaging with our business partners because of a very good reputation in the township. And so thank you for this, and at least there's a lot of illegal style operations that are very unsafe. So kudos to you to go through this process and put this together. I guess the question, I'm looking at the setup here and I'm trying to understand Gilmore entrance. Is that only employee parking, only cars, no trucks going to Gilmore? Is that the plan? Or
Yeah, 100%. Zero trucks through there.
so the trucks would be going in and out of the Brock Road, the entrance. And then the trucks would be trailers as well parked in the back area?
Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess as a question now, I was gonna relate over to Joanna maybe around outdoor storage. Because I know this is for industrial and in some different municipalities, there's specifics around outdoor storage as well. So how's that tie in? Is this, would that be part of this industrial zoning?
So through you, Mr. Chair, so this planner, or the planner on this file is Zach Prince, so I'll be reporting information back to him, but generally. With the zoning amendment applications, there'll be a review of the zoning file and how it's applicable to this particular site. So that would include things like if outdoor storage is proposed and the requirements of the zoning bylaw for that as well.
That's all the question.
Just to clarify, there's no intention to have outdoor storage, and in my view, we enjoy it and confirm this, the truck parking of trailers, which would be a vehicle, is not considered outdoor storage. So that otherwise, not planning to have materials stored. I don't think that'd be part of the good business for his, for him to operate that way.
The trailers do fall in outdoor storage at times, and that's why anyway, it'll get caught through the due diligence. So that's totally fine. All right, so thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Xavier.
Pick up several questions. You cite in the document that you have warehouse vehicles and warehouse truck. What is a warehouse vehicle? They seem to be the a chunk of traffic coming in and out. What's the distinction between a warehouse vehicle and warehouse truck?
I think the only type of traffic that will be using will be vehicles from employees. And the trailers and trucks themselves. So there might have been some word smithing there that.
Well, yeah, no, I asked for clarification with respect to the traffic generated, and you have this chart here, I don't know if you've seen that. You have vehicles, warehouse truck, and office vehicle.
I assume, so on the warehouse side, we have parking for the warehouse staff. So they would go through the trucking entrance, so I would think that's what we're referring to, warehouse vehicles being those people that work in the warehouse. And then the truck traffic would go through there, and then all cars, all the employees that work in the 30,000 square feet, they would enter and exit off in Gilmore.
So this would be standard vehicles.
Yeah.
In terms of you're saying that this is a one shift operation. Would you be amenable to have a bylaw stating that we're restricting you to a one shift operation? The concern I have is impact on the residents. If you look at where you are, you're very close to some people living on Gilmore as well as the Aberfoyle Mills area.
Yeah, so we're, the price whole plan is to be respectful to them. We want to be welcomed. I appreciate your words. We've been involved in the community. Our name is Wellington, and that was one of my partners lived in Wellington and picked the name. We're proud of it. I am a businessman right now. Our operations run 7 to 5. This is a major investment. I'm not like, I would like to have a say in the matter if it came to it tonight. If we can generate all the money we need to afford this building from 8 to 5, which we currently can. But we don't have an opportunity on the table to go through tonight. I personally would prefer not to, but it's we're not like to be restricted. If I had the opportunity to make money through the night, if that's respectful, but I also want to be welcomed in the community by the people of Wellington.
One of the things that came up at council was a noise study and trying to get it ready for the public meeting. Is that
It's underway.
it's underway? And of particular concern is the impact on the residents and the truck operation. I notice you have a wood fence all the way around the property. If you, I guess you're waiting to see the results of the noise study, see determine if it needs something more substantial, like a noise barrier wall.
Correct. So we know what the outcome of the noise study is. It's kind of immature. Whether that fence needs to be higher or built a little different to ensure
Okay, and then with respect to the landscaping, you mentioned that your septic bed is along the front. And it was mentioned that you would hide the parking area. Are you proposing berms in that particular location?
No, we don't have the space within that, along the frontage between, the road and then the septic bed. And then the right of way, there's not enough depth there to have berming, almost even another 10 meters. Really tight on space, as you can see with that particular portion of the property.
Could you pass, put the screen up that shows the particular layout? This would be the site plan.
Zoom in along the frontage there, that would be helpful. Yeah, so. Just go down.
Just go down.
Yeah, that's fine, is there, yeah. So I don't know if I can control this mouse. Can I control this?
Probably not.
Oh, I don't go, can I go screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
So block line here is the rock boundary. And you can't see it, it has 3 meters between that and sort of the, sorry, with this, so this is the bottom boundary. In any event, here's your septic bed. There's very little room to here and there to be a building, but it will be landscaped. There is a requirement to do a landscape plan as part of the site plan. So whatever we can do, we obviously can't plant on the septic bed. But whatever we can do along the frontage, we will. 3 meters is pretty substantial to do some landscaping. There's also a large landscape area corner of the ground bed that we can landscape as well and screen that, which is a pretty predominant.
So that's the curb line along.
Yes, that's it. Well, we roundabouts right there.
Okay, so that area that's from the septic bed to the curb line, would something be put in there?
That is part of the right of way.
Yes.
It's county land.
Mhm.
If they'd allow us through an encroachment agreement, then we could do something like that, but at this point in time, that's not our land.
And there is existing trees, which we intend not to take out where. Our first set tree lever, whatever trees don't have to come out, we would add, we would add more stuff for sure.
So, question of the county planner, any concerns about suggesting that we put some landscaping in the right of way to shield the parking area?
So for you, Mr. Chair, that would probably have to be a discussion with the county road staff as well to see if there'd be any concerns with encroaching into that distance to the actual road itself. So my understanding is the application will be circulated or is circulated, and they will provide comments as part of this application, but I've noted your comment as well, so I'll provide these to Zach and.
Okay, so we're obliged to provide comments to our council. What sort of comments would you like to provide? We discussed the issue of concern with hazardous materials in there. We discussed I forgot what you said.
Just one point, just wanted to confirm. That was, I know it would be a traffic study done Rock Road. Would there be a traffic study, because to your point around the community being there? School buses come to mind during the day, a lot of cars coming into that parking lot. Would there be a traffic study done on Gilmore up to that subdivision? Or are we looking at Rock Road?
We'll turn it over to the chairman.
For you, Mr. Chair, the traffic study that was done, looked at all the roads in the area, including Gilmore.
Okay.
And so that would have been part of the traffic, look at all the one traffic study that's been submitted with this application. So that's correct. And to know there was no improvements required along Gilmore, there is a right turn lane required on Rock variance. So we'll have northbound right turn right into the site.
Okay, so Paul, what comments did you have?
My comments was, you know, to support the business community. I think we should include that in. I mean, there's going to be obviously other conditions and comments and due diligence settings, but I think we should. For my angle, I would like to include that. The due diligence process.
Okay, with respect to impact on the community, do you have any like comments with respect to the future hours?
No comments on that from my side.
No comments on that from me, yeah. I think I'd like to see the results of the noise study.
Okay.
Seeing anything more.
So that applies to most areas and any comments with respect to landscaping, additional landscaping to assure the parking.
I would certainly support if the opportunity exists to use the right of way for enhanced landscaping. But I also recognize that you would have to meet the landscape requirements in your design guidelines. And that might be a challenge with the septic field, but I would leave that to you and your consultants to solve in future time.
Can I just, the building looks quite modern from the front. So from my angle, from a visual standpoint, I'm not sure if landscaping would, you know.
I'm talking about the parking area. If you take a look at the plan, there's no building in front of the parking area.
Also the barrier off the parking area.
Well, just landscaping, soften up the parking.
What I understand, sir, that is our plan. We can, because we're between the parking lot and for where that boundary is, we can't put full trees that would grow large.
Well, I understand.
But we'll put
Appreciate
the highest bushes we can put in there
Yeah,
to.
I appreciate that. You have to be suitable and sure, certainly the county would be concerned about sightlines and all that.
To your comment, if the county will certainly refer the comment, and will, when we get to that point in terms of preparing a landscape plan, if they're agreeable to allowing us to do that, we can certainly look at. It's not uncommon to do boulevard planting. And that's what that is, a boulevard.
So, Lynn, can you summarize the comments of interest?
So, the committee has following comments. Possibility to use the right of way for landscaping if possible to soften along the parking area along Brockwood. So, committee would like the results of the noise study to be considered. Those are the two I've captured, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any other comments you wish to make? Or suggesting hours of operation, but my concern is for the residents specifically. We certainly, I guess it depends on the noise. My big concern would be the residents.
I can just make one more comment out.
Sure.
Part of our design was to keep everything over to the side. And because of the property that you drive by, you'll see that to the right side, closer to Maple or the south side, is higher. So we're actually gonna have a berm at the back. It's higher at the back and it's higher on the side. And then it's gonna be higher on that side. So we are gonna be putting a berm between on the north side, like if you like, don't have it, but it's. And we moved the entire design of the parking lot for the cars just to be as far away from the residents as possible. That's why we had this gap feature over here, so that we can get as far away from the residents that live here. And then if you're on this side of the property, this is the highest side back here, and it slopes down here, and it's high in the back. So the back will have a natural berm, this side will have a natural berm, and then this is gonna be a higher side where we'll put a berm. So basically, any of the trucks, part of the design was that the trucks come in and out of here, they'll be as far as possible from there, and once they come past the point, there's kind of a natural berm. And they'll park. But in general, just the trucks will only be going in and out during the day. There's no, the Nestle trucks going in and out, there's a lot more truck and truck going up down by them than we'll ever bring.
Okay, so, are there any other comments we wish to make? Okay, so basically, what you're suggesting is you support the application in principle. With concerns with respect to results of the noise study. And concerns with respect to landscaping to meet the urban design guidelines. Okay, so do you want to read them?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. The committee supports the application in principle, subject to the following, the possibility to use right away for landscaping if possible to soften the area along the parking lot along Rock Road South.
In accordance with the urban design guidelines.
And in terms of the urban design guidelines, the results of the noise study are to be considered. And I also have concerns of impact to residents for traffic noise.
So, we move in a second. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time, Chair.
Okay, so we're on to new business. 8.1. Yeah, on to 11.1. Correspondence 10.1. Items referred to by council for the committee comments.
There is none.
Okay, and new business 11.1 plan development advisory committee term for reference review.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have the terms of reference for PDAC to review very briefly. It should be just a couple minutes. And then also our Line Fences Act, and with your permission, Mr. Chair, the terms of reference for the Property Standards Appeal Committee, we were hoping to defer perhaps until we have all of the committee here and if and when we actually have an appeal, just to keep it top of mind for committee members, if that's all right. I believe it's 11.2.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So, two gentlemen are fence reviewers. I suggest one should come around here so you can see it better.
Oh, okay, I can watch it.
You can watch it there?
Yeah, it's good here.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's fine.
All right, so the terms of reference. This is for our Planning Development Advisory Committee. So again, different than our quasi judicial committee, C of A. We're looking at here providing advice to council. So part of the role and mandate of this committee is to serve in an advisory capacity to council. To provide advice to council on making recommendations on issues related to land use planning within the township of Portland. So again, zoning bylaw amendment applications, that's what we just heard just previously. And community improvement plan applications. So where any applications for site plan control fall within our CIP zone in the township, we would bring those to committee for comments. Again, that's within our main corridor of the township, just looking to have those comments from PDAC on those applications. So the role is to provide formal township comments on all consent applications as well, and that's to the County of Wellington Land Division Committee. Giving recommendations for consideration on behalf of the township. PDAC also gets to serve as our alternate line fence viewers on behalf of the township in accordance with Line Fences Act. So this is everyone except for our chair. So our citizen members get that opportunity to serve, in addition, or as backup to our line fence viewers who are our primaries. And further, the committee's mandate is to provide a forum for the engagement of the community for information sharing and that sort of thing. So that's really why we have the delegation portion of the agenda if community wants to come speak to you. So the purpose, again, advising council where applicable, you're reviewing practices, policies identified from staff. So oftentimes you'll see township initiated zoning bylaws that come to you for comments. And this is to see how we can improve delivery of services to the public relating to land use. Reviewing and commenting on County and Wellington Land Division applications, reviewing and commenting on our zoning bylaw amendment applications, you're participating in any applications for site plan relating to CIP and that process. And you're evaluating, making recommendations to council on site alterations applications where applicable. This will be something new, when our site alteration bylaw has been updated by council. Typically, we would bring things over a certain volume of fill or a certain scale of site alteration to this committee for comment, typically when an agreement or contract is required. And you're providing advice and recommendations to council with respect to any special projects or as requested, again, if there would be your comments on anything. Any questions on the terms of reference?
Just a question, will all these documents that you have in your presentation, will they be made available for people to have this sort of?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chair. We can make sure that all of this reference material gets circulated to you through email. Okay, I apologize if I'm talking about. So we have Line Fences Act training, as the second part. Again, this is just a very high level training. The legislation around line fences is complex and is very specific to the scenario that you're presented with. So again, this is going to give high level information, but certainly if there was a formal request made to the township, we would look at it specifically to determine next steps. So the purpose of the act, it's to provide a procedure for the resolution of certain line fence disputes between owners of adjoining properties. So something really important to keep in mind here is that it's not necessarily just two adjoining properties, particularly in Pussland or in rural communities, you could have multiple. So you could have a large property that maybe has 3 or 4 properties that adjoin to it, or they have that adjoining property line. So just something to keep in mind as we work through. It's not necessarily a dispute just between 2 properties. So the next item just to talk about is the eligibility to serve as a fence viewer. So just, I hope this doesn't come as a shock to any members here, but we do have an appointment bylaw that was passed, I believe, at our last council meeting, appointing our citizen members of PDAC as alternate fence viewers. So again, we have our primary fence viewers and one is not in attendance tonight. And then again, just based on the requirements under the legislation, needing to have 3 attend every viewing, it's good to have those alternates in case of vacations or things like that. So there's no requirement for the fence viewer to be a resident or elector of the township or even a Canadian citizen. It's not recommended that you have members of council be appointed to this position, but it does occur sometimes. It's often, it's common that you'll see committees appointed, staff sometimes. There's really just a very wide range of who can be appointed by council. So again, not uncommon to have a roster, which is what we've tried to establish here, in order to meet the minimum number of fence viewers that need to attend a viewing and within the legislative timelines. It's also common for fence viewers to have a general knowledge of construction or farming practices, and that's depending on the municipality that they serve. So when is the act applicable? So the procedure outlined in the act is applicable in 2 situations, where owners are unable to reach an agreement. So where no fence currently exists at the boundary between 2 or more properties, and where 1 or more owners wants a new fence to be constructed to mark the boundary. So again, the first scenario is where there's no fence, and there's that desire to mark the property line, or where a line fence already exists, and 1 owner believes that it needs to be reconstructed or repaired. So those are the 2 scenarios where a line fence viewing would be appropriate. When is the act not applicable? So the procedure within the act is not applicable if 1 owner on their own initiative has constructed a new line fence or has reconstructed or repaired an existing line fence, and then wants to use the procedure in the act to force the adjoining property owner to pay the cost of the completed work. So again, it's not a tool to resolve something where work has already been completed in order to recover those costs. It truly is a dispute mechanism, a procedure in place to help the 2 owners come to a resolution before that construction takes place. And the procedure only deals with disputes over line fences and does not provide a means of determining the location of the lot line between adjoining properties. So this is something I would say staff are frequently requested to do where there is a dispute over survey, lot lines, where's the boundary. That is not something that this procedure aims to resolve disputes over. It's simply around the line fence itself. We'll just stop in case there's any questions. I know I'm talking quickly, but if there's any questions so far.
How many requests a year do we get?
And somebody's gonna need to knock on wood, but we have not had a request in 20 years or so. But with that said, staff frequently get inquiries about it. So what process do we have in place? Do we have a bylaw? Do we use the Line Fences Act? How do we resolve this? It is probably a testament to our community that these disputes are resolved before it ever escalates to that. So again, this is kind of a last resort mechanism.
Thank you.
Yes, I was here before. When that good home was on,
Oh, I see.
and I think it was for about 4 or 5 years. And I don't know whether we ever called it once. Which was good, and there's been 2 other guys, so there was 3 at that time. And I think one of them deceased now. Now, when it comes to the boundary lines, we're seeing what boundary lines. There's always stakes or something, right, so most of the stakes are in the ground. You need any kind of a metal detector or something to find out exactly where that stake is. You understand?
Yeah.
And so do you have a metal detector or do we go, I can always get one, but I'm saying if you did.
I believe the township has a metal detector in the shop.
But I guess the issue I see is it's not so much the location of the fence. The location of the fence is up to the 2 property owners to establish.
Right.
It's the apportionment of cost, who should pay what type of thing. Somebody wants a chain link fence, the neighbor says, I want a board fence. Well,
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay,
yeah, you say, okay, fine, you're gonna say, okay, the base cost is the chain link fence, and anything over above the board fence is to your cost.
Understand? Yeah. Where is that?
No, is there gonna be some formal training? With the review of the act, or is it?
This is-
Homework, I'm okay with that.
All of the resource material is going to be provided to you. And so within the guide that we provided, actually, I'm moving into it a little bit. And sorry, it's not over yet. That was the question so far. Hopefully, there's more to come. So maybe you'll be okay with the training, but we can definitely provide this to you after.
You'll get some paperwork tonight, right? Will we?
I,
You just read us out.
I'm going to, we can provide it to you through email, or we could print it and we can do it else, wherever you prefer.
Okay, sure.
So what is the role of the line fence viewer? So, Mr. Chair already touched on some of this. So where the owners are not able to resolve their dispute, a formal request can be made to the township to assign fence viewers to resolve the dispute and issue the decision called an award. So fence viewers are only authorized to address one or both of the following issues. So again, just back to what we just had a conversation about. The description of the fence that is to be constructed or reconstructed on the boundary line, including the materials to be used. So again, what is the fence, what's it going to be constructed out of? And the apportionment of costs for the fencing work. So this apportionment of the cost can include the materials and installation, and how is this going to be apportioned between the adjoining owners? So those are really the 2 issues that the fence viewer has the authority or the jurisdiction under the act to make an order under. So that does not include the location, so Mr. Chair. All right, so administrative functions. So this is how staff in the township assist the fence viewers and how council. So the first council's role. So fence viewers are performing a type of judicial function, and therefore council has no authority to provide instructions to fence viewers or to review their decisions. So again, it's somewhat of a judicial role. They're at an arm's length. They will be influencing any decisions that are made. Council has an important role in appointing the fence viewers by bylaw, and they set remuneration. So again, what does it cost to make an application for a fence viewing, and what are the fence viewers paid? What is staff's role? So the act makes the clerk of the municipality responsible or their delegate for the procedure where a dispute cannot be resolved by the property owners. So early dispute resolution is encouraged, and the clerk may be asked to participate in this dispute resolution as a mediator prior to requesting a fence viewing. So again, just looking to get those early resolutions so that if we don't have to go down this road, we won't. The clerk will review the legislation to determine if the act applies to each situation based on the land ownership and other circumstances, as set in the act and determine if the fence viewers have jurisdiction to arbitrate. So again, there's certain scenarios depending on who owns adjoining land, whether it's crown land, municipal, is it a road allowance, unopened or open. So a number of different circumstances that could change whether or not the fence viewer has jurisdiction on the land. Administrative functions continued. So again, the clerk will ensure that the required forms are filled out. So let's say we cannot reach an early dispute resolution with them. We'll make sure that they're filling out the right forms to make the formal request. And then the clerk will provide the fence viewers with the appropriate materials. So again, making that formal request and then contacting fence viewers. We're then required to set the date and time of the viewing, which is to be held on the lands of the adjoining owners, and the viewing shall take place within 30 days. So again, we're pretty constrained for the timelines here, which is important to have our backups in the event that someone's on vacation or has a work commitment that they just can't make it. So it is mandatory that 3 fence viewers attend a viewing. So again, we need to have those 3. If there is something that comes up, we'd have to postpone the reschedule. The clerk is then required to send a notice to the property owners and the fence viewers, alerting of the date and time of the viewing. The clerk may schedule a meeting with the fence viewers in advance of the viewing to review the procedure. So again, this is a great chance for everyone to come together, fence viewers and staff. Just take a look at what's being requested, take a look at maybe what the mediation process has already unfolded. Just give a really good indication of next steps. And then finally, the clerk will ensure that the fence viewer receives the remuneration. Just pausing if there's questions. Okay, so conducting a viewing. So when the fence viewers are actually out, there could be a number of different things that come up. So you could be required to postpone the viewing. This could happen if a fence viewer is unable to attend last minute. It could happen due to weather. You can't get out there. So again, that's something that would have to happen on site. Could be other issues that come up that prevents the viewing from taking place. Just making sure that you contact the clerk or designate, we get that rescheduled within the 30 days and we get back out on site. There could be procedural issues at a viewing. Again, if you don't have enough people there and fence viewers, it does proceed regardless of whether both property owners attend or multiple property owners, it does proceed. But we do need to have those fence viewers in attendance. You would hear evidence. So again, it's appropriate to ensure that every property owner has the opportunity to make representations and to speak. So again, a little bit of your role is playing mediator, making sure there's a respectful conversation. At this point, they've already tried to resolve the dispute. There's a likelihood that there's potential for conflict. So again, just working through that, making sure everybody is heard. It's also your role to keep a record. So you're going to want to make sure you're on site with a notepad and pen and paper, making sure that you are taking a record of everything that's taking place. And again, those can be provided to you if there's additional information afterwards as well. And then preparing the award. So there's forms and all of the sort of stuff provided through the legislation that we as staff would assist you with in filling out those forms. So you're not on your own to do that. We would work with you closely to make sure that those are filled out. And then sending out copies of the award. Again, this is something that's heavily regulated through the legislation. We need to send them registered mail. There's certain things that need to happen and staff would certainly help with that process, making sure it's done. So issuing the award. So these are some things to keep in mind. So the award is required to provide direction to the 2 owners on the matter or more than 2 owners. So the matters that need to be considered when you're issuing an award, the needs of both owners, the nature of the terrain. So just making sure whatever you're putting in place through the award, specifically related to the materials of the fence, all of that makes sense with the terrain. Benefits to both property owners of the line fence. So again, in Hustlinch, knowing that we have a rural community with a lot of farming and agriculture, if one property owner needs a fence, a page wire fence, perhaps for animals or livestock, barbed wire, whatever that is, keeping in mind that you're not making an order that puts in a fence that's not meeting the needs for the property owners. And then again, just something keeping with the character of the area and other fences. So I would say this is more in line in our settlement areas where we see chain link fence, privacy fence board, things like that. Location of the fence, again, so this is not speaking directly to the lot line, but in particular, if you have an obstruction, so if there's a tree in the way, you need to go around. The act provides instruction on how to make that known. The description of the fence, again, you're making note of what materials you're using. Does it need to be a 5-foot chain link fence? Does it need to be a 8-foot board and batten? Making sure that you're paying attention to what you're putting in your award. And likewise, just paying attention again to some of the township's regulatory bylaws, specifically around pool enclosures. If that is going up for a pool enclosure, making sure that your award reflects what they're doing. And again, that could be further dealt with through the division of responsibility for cost. So in general, the act talks about the 50-50 rule. For the most part, your awards are going to be 50-50, or however that distribution makes sense among the property owners for equal share of the cost. There are some instances where that doesn't make sense. So in an instance where one property owner perhaps needs the fence for a pool enclosure, and they're putting it around the line fence of their property, it may not make sense to have the adjoining property share in any of that cost, because the purpose of that fence is not to delineate the boundary, it's for the pool enclosure. So just be mindful of that. But in general, the legislation does want to keep the 50-50 rule adhered to where possible. Start and completion date. So again, when you're putting them in the order, be mindful of season changes. If there's delays like we've seen in COVID, with reality of having people come out to actually do the construction, just be mindful of those. Again, they're issued in the awards, so they need to be adhered to. So just making sure that it's realistic. And allocation of the cost of the proceeding. So again, we would let those folks know who pays what in terms of our user charges by them. Okay, so the next one is the last slide. And unless we have questions, but when defense bureaus have jurisdiction. So the act outlines some common questions that we may get. And again, staff is here to help guide through this. So if there is no line fence in place, the general question is, what do we do if somebody's asking for one? So if there is no line fence, section 4 of the act makes it clear that the fence bureaus have jurisdiction in these circumstances. So again, that's the easy one. We have no fence, we can go out and we can make the determination. If an entire line fence needs to be repaired or reconstructed. So again, section 4 makes this clear that the fence bureaus would have jurisdiction in this circumstance again. What if the owner has already constructed a new fence? So this is one that we get quite often. This is also a straightforward situation. The fence bureaus would have no jurisdiction. Right, so they've already put up the fence, you can't use the legislation to try to go back and recover costs. What if one owner has already begun to construct a new fence? So this one again, and then maybe they stop, they realize, oh, hold on, I could be getting my neighbor to help me with this. So again, this is trickier, especially if the dispute about the fence, about the type of fence that's to be constructed. So if that is dispute, I want a chain link because it's cheaper, I want a board fence because I want privacy, and they've already started the board fence. That makes it much harder for the fence viewer to come in and say, well, we're gonna put the board fence up and make you pay 50-50 each. That's probably not gonna be what happens, because they went ahead with the construction before you guys went out and actually told them what it should be. So that one is going to be one where we decide as whether we have the jurisdiction, whether it's already begun and it's too late, it's going up and that's what it is, or because it's very beginning in the process, can we take a look and deal with that through cost apportionment? If one owner has already repaired or reconstructed an existing line fence in its entirety, again, this is the same situation, it's already done, we can't go back. And if one owner has repaired or reconstructed half of the line fence, so again, this happens a lot sometimes in agricultural areas, and this could be out of necessity. They really just needed to reconstruct it. They have livestock. They need to keep, they cannot wait the 30 days for the fence bureau to come out. So this will depend as well, and we would have to look at jurisdiction to arbitrate in these circumstances, depending on how much work was done, what type of fence was put up. And what if one owner wants to replace an adequate line fence with a different type of fence? So again, this is one that we see a lot in our settlement areas with a pool. We put in a pool, now I have to put in a fence for the pool. In this case, it's usually quite straightforward. The person wanting the pool has to pay the full cost. But again, we could look at that at a staff level and help make a determination.
Questions?
It's okay, I think I pretty figure that by now. Thank you. But once we get the, well, I want hard copy, I don't,
Sure.
emails, I always. So if you don't mind, I'll pick the hard copy up sometime and put it in, I don't know about you, if you want a hard copy, I want emails to him, he's more advanced, I am.
I'm good, thank you. Okay. Just a couple of questions. For taking notes, is there a cheat sheet for these fellows to follow?
Yes, we can provide it's like a summary checklist of things that you can, when you're out on a viewing, that you can make sure you cover off, so we can get that all prepared.
In terms of allocation of cost, are the fence viewers supposed to just talk in percentages, or are they supposed to get into the actual dollars and cents? Like, for instance, somebody says chain link fence, on a board fence. So somebody's gonna have to have a handle on the cost type of thing to say this versus that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a good question. So I would say, yes, they can deal in percentages unless there's options within the legislation that talks about a different portion is where one owner will pay for materials, one owner will pay for installation. Like there's different agreements that can be made between owners. But in general, if it's an award made by the fence viewer, we're looking for a number of quotes. So for example, if we have someone that wants a board and a board fence, the fence viewer says, you know, all that's required is a chain link. Sorry, the board fence isn't what I'm coming to an agreement with, but if you want the board fence, you can pay the difference. We would be looking for quotes. So to be fair, they would have to get the quotes for the chain link and the quotes for the board.
Who would be getting the quotes for the property owners?
The property owner that is requesting the line fence be put in.
And in your cheat sheet, will you say how many quotes you have to get?
Yes, staff would recommend 3 for each type.
Yeah, we need to make it as easy as possible for everybody and it's consistent. Okay, great, thanks, Courtney.
Thank you.
Okay, new business, any other items on new business? I have one new business, for, Courtney and Lynn. We sort of covered off, the fact that, I'm the chair, and if I'm not here, you said that, one of the other committee members will take, carriage of the, meeting. And can we produce a list of, who's gonna be for what month, acting in case I'm not here?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we'll be bringing a report forward at the next meeting with that list for you to approve.
Oh, that's great, thank you. All right, so let's we'll move in a second to accept the new business as presented. Move by Jim. First, second by Paul, all in favor? Okay, great, okay, let's get the last item, adjournment, but the mover to adjourn the meeting at 9:02. Moved by Paul, second by Chris, all in favor? Thank you.